If you're an entrepreneur, you know that you are called to be set apart from the marketplace. There are two meanings of that. There is the good old blue ocean, right? You're supposed to have your USP, your unique selling proposition, make sure that you're standing out from your competitors. But also, if you are a kingdom-driven entrepreneur, you know that we are called to be set apart for Christ's glory. So today we're going to talk about what does that look like in practicality? How can you actually let God dictate what your USP is in business, and how can you see the fruit of that take root and be able to go out and take ground in the marketplace and go take some dominion in the marketplace. So let's go ahead, dive on in. Firstly, we have to understand that we are called to be set apart for the kingdom. Okay, what does that even mean? In general, it's all through the Bible. There's multiple different scriptures, especially in the Gospels. If you go read Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, it's all through those. We're supposed to live in the world, but not be of the world. We are supposed to be in the marketplace. We are supposed to be leading businesses and working in the marketplace. Like this doesn't mean that we are literally in heaven on earth or sort of a situation. We're not in our own little world, okay? We are still in the world. However, we don't have to act like the world. We don't have to go do all of the things that the world would say to go do. We don't have to prioritize the materials and the unnecessary things that the flesh would normally desire, right? We can kind of yield to the flesh and say, God, what do you want, right? That's we're called to be different. We're called to stand out. We're called to let God's fruit, or really let the fruit of the Spirit actually be the way of which we separate ourselves from the marketplace. People can sense when you have fruit of the Spirit. That's what the spiritual side of this conversation is all about, so that people can see that you're different, so that you could be a light for them, so that people can see that you're not operating like they do, and you have more fruit than they do, and it's going to cause curiosity. It's going to cause create awesome opportunities to be able to witness and share to others what God is doing through your life, and that's what we're called to do on a spiritual level. But this video is talking about, what does that mean in the world of the marketplace? What does that mean in terms of USPs? Because if you're an entrepreneur, you probably understand the importance on having a unique selling proposition. You probably are not the only person in your entire market that sells the services or sells the products or has similar offers of which you are selling. I'm sure there are plenty of other competitors that you have, whether they're in your local market or the national market, that are selling something similar to what it is that you do. And how in the world do you stand out? How in the world do you make sure that you seem different than they do? That's what we're going to talk about today, because ultimately, when you can stand out from your competitors, you can grow. All of a sudden, you can actually capture more market share. You can become more of a market leader. And once again, crazy, the similarities, the congruence here to the spiritual side of this conversation, people start to look at you as a leader and say, wow, how did you come up with that idea? How are you doing things so different? How are you getting the fruit that you're getting? How are you getting the market share that you're getting? And all of a sudden, when there is a link back to God, you now get to give God the glory. And now all of a sudden, we're talking about marketplace ministry again. I could technically go tell you to go through this thought framework on analyzing all of your competitors and writing down all of the ways of which they're doing everything, and making sure that you come up with things to your own creativity to make sure that you're doing things different than them. I can technically go tell you to do that. That's what the world would probably tell you to do. I could tell you to go read some books on, blue ocean strategy or standing out in a crowded place. I can probably tell you to go watch the Savannah Bananas and see how Jesse Cole has gone and revolutionized the world of baseball. That's what the world would tell you to do. And technically speaking, these are great things to do in the first place. It's a wise practice to go learn from innovators. It's a wise practice to go do some of those things in the first place. However, before you do, I would encourage you, take it to God. Let God speak into how you should be showing up in the marketplace. The only way to really drive home today's point is by telling you how God has influenced my business. I think that's the easiest way, is to, rather than tell you or make certain claims, I can just simply document and share my stories. And hopefully it can be a gleaning light. Hopefully it can be a bit of encouragement or inspiration for you. So I'll just go ahead and share my story a little bit with how we have gotten into the business model that we're in and how we have stood out in the way that we are standing out. Anyone that's new here, my name is Zach Hesterberg. I run a company called paidevents.com, where we help entrepreneurs and thought leaders create virtual events that they can sell a bunch of tickets to, and then they will go live for a course of usually 2 or 3 days, and they will usually present their higher ticket offer or their higher ticket service to all of their attendees. And usually there's a certain percentage of the attendees that will take them up on that offer. And so then they usually have I would say like a big payday at the end where, maybe instead of getting one high ticket sale, instead, you give that one offer for a high ticket sale, but you're giving it to maybe 100 people at the same time. Maybe you have 10 people take you up on a 10K offer, and boom shakalaka, just like that, you've got yourself a $100,000 payday. That's kind of the business that we're in. And just to be very clear, I am not promising if you decide to engage in services with us, I'm not promising that you're going to make a single dime. All I'm going to promise is that I'll give you the lessons of which we have learned in helping other entrepreneurs have multiple 6- and 7-figure paydays as well, and also the lessons we've learned from people that have absolutely flopped during their events. So that's what we help you with. We're ultimately consultants. I'm not going to sit here and promise that you're going to have some crazy result, but we have seen a lot of awesome results as well. So now, how did we get into that? And how does this tie into today's video? In 2015 is when I actually started the business. And the business started off as a general social media marketing agency. I was not doing event-based selling. I didn't know what event-based selling even was. I was not doing anything with events. I really wasn't even studying sales very well either. I was really just doing lead generation for local businesses. That's what I was doing in 2015. And the business has, of course, pivoted over time to stay in business, continue to adapt and serve the marketplace in the way it needs to be served. And we got to the point where in early 2020, probably up until 2023, we were really focusing on like a call booking style agency where we've been working with a lot of higher ticket creators and higher ticket service providers, helping them sell and scale their high ticket services. And many of these people just wanted more calls booked on their calendars. And we were finding, especially in 2023, that call funnels were starting to decline in performance. What used to cost maybe, I don't know, $100, maybe $150 to get someone to not just give you their information, but actually book a call on your calendar and then actually show up for a sales call. It'd only be like maybe $100, $200 total. And all of a sudden, those costs were becoming way more inefficient. People were no-showing at a far greater rate. They were also booking these calls at a far lower rate. And because of it, people were all of a sudden paying maybe $700 to maybe $1,000 to even have someone show up for these sales calls. And then when they were showing up, they were really skeptical. And I was starting to see that like this process is just not working the way it used to work. And typically where there's smoke, there's fire. And I was starting to see the bigger picture. I'm like, I think the market's changing. I think the market needs to be served in a different way. I'm sure you've heard people talk about how there's a trust recession going on right now. I was sensing that literally like late 2023 and especially in 2024. It was getting very notable. And so I prayed about it one day. I was up on a flight and up in the air, and I prayed 3 specific things. But for the sake of this conversation, I'll share the first 2. I said, number 1, I said, God, if you want me to serve your people, like you've given me the skill set on how to go really steward people's businesses. You've helped me figure out how to go grow people's businesses. I have an incredible skill set to go multiply what people are running. Like I know how to multiply revenue really, really well. And I've done it time after time after time with a bunch of different types of businesses and a bunch of different degrees of experience. I mean, literally 7-figure paydays even for people. And that's all great and dandy and all. But God, what do you want me to do with this skill? So my first ultimate prayer was, I said, God, you have all of these people that you want me to serve. My question is, how do you want me servicing the marketplace for the rest of this year? Going into 2020 or going into the back half of 2024, going into 2025. God, how do you want me servicing the marketplace? How do you want me servicing your people? So that was the first question. And then the second question was, Lord, after you give me that answer, have faith, by the way. If you notice, just like I assumed, I had faith that he was going to give me that answer. So I was praying from that sort of a heart posture. But then I said, God, after you give me that answer, would you show me, how do you want me separating myself from the marketplace? How do you want me distinguishing myself from the rest of the marketplace so I don't just sound like another copycat? Because whatever you want me to do to serve people, I'm sure I'm not the only person doing it. He answered both of those prayers almost instantly. And it was really, really neat. because I wrote them down. The first question, he first told me, he said, well, how have you serviced my people in the past? And so I wrote down a list of all of the different strategies I've applied into people's businesses. And when I wrote down paid virtual events, that was something that we've technically done back all the way to 2020. And when I wrote that down in this list of a whole bunch of different marketing strategies, it was like light bulb, light bulb, light bulb. He said, I want you to focus all in on paid events or paid virtual events. That should be your full focus. I want you to serve people with that specific strategy. I said, okay. And then the second one, he said, I want you to use biblical principles and scripture in how you build this business. And I also want you to use it in your marketing to separate yourself from all of the competitors. Boom. I wrote that down as well. Technically speaking, the third question was about revenue. And I was praying and I said, God, I want to make sure that whatever you tell me to do, I want to make sure that I am focused on a revenue goal that is uncomfortable for me and that will stretch me and that you want me to set my sights on, not as a forever goal, but more so just a benchmark. And that essentially give me a number that is not so high that it will be debilitating, but not so low that it undermines what you're capable of. And so he gave me a very specific revenue milestone to aim for as well. And so I had wrote all three of those things down right away. It almost happened too easy. Like it almost happened too quick of how quick those prayers were answered. I mean, it was literally all up on the plane. I gave the prayer. The prayer lasted for a couple minutes, and then within literally the next couple minutes, I already had answers to everything. And being the flawed human that I am, I said, God, maybe this could have come from my subconscious. Like maybe I could have just figured all of this stuff out on my own. And so I want to make sure this is actually of you, not of me. And so, Lord, would you just be so gracious to supernaturally confirm at some point over the next week that this was actually you, that these answers come from you, so that I can actually take action and obey with certainty, knowing that I'm doing what you're calling me to do, not just what my subconscious drafted up as a good plan, right? 24 hours later, I was driving down the road and I get a call from a good friend and mentor of mine at this point, but at the time we were not very close. His name is Jeremy Haynes. And Jeremy gives me a call out of nowhere. And he, once again, I mean, at this point, I could probably count on one hand the amount of times I've even had a conversation with this guy on a one-on-one level. I've talked with him in groups, but that's about it. When I answered the phone, I said, hey, what's going on? He said, hey, real quick, I've got something I feel like I need to tell you. I'm about to walk into a client's house. He said, but I just want to make sure that you're not missing a really big opportunity you should probably take advantage of. I said, okay, what's that? He said, well, Zach, I know that you're a Christian. And he said, I've seen some of your content on Instagram, and I think that you're leaving a lot of money on the table if you don't go all in on posting more content about the Bible and how it influences the way of which you're building this business. I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, dude. He's like, I just think you should go all in on posting about Christianity and biblical principles and how it applies to business. I think that you'll do far better for it, and you'll be far better off for it. I said, okay, well, yeah, I appreciate that. He goes, all right, man, I got to go. I'll see you later. And this is maybe a 5-minute call. So we get off the phone, and I pretty much just looked up to God. I said, well, okay, so God, he just confirmed one of those three things. He just confirmed the how you want me to separate myself from the marketplace. Now I just need the other two things to be confirmed. And God is so gracious. He literally has Jeremy call me back about 10 minutes later. And Jeremy says, hey, I forgot to tell you one other thing. I said, okay, what's that? He goes, hey, you're one of the only people I know that has actually focused on paid virtual events and has had a lot of case studies and testimonials and success with this for more than just one or two clients. He's like, dude, no one else is going for these people. He's like, I think you should go all in on this. Like, you should really just kind of make it your thing. Like, you should build your brand around it, and you should go all in on these paid events. And then he goes, just to make sure I'm driving this home clearly and making sure that you fully understand how serious I am about this. He goes, Zach, if you just do all of what I just told you to do, you go all in on these paid events, and you actually put into practice the Christianity thing that I just called you about, or the biblical principle thing that I just called you about a few minutes ago. He's like, dude, I think you're going to be making roughly this much money in no time on a monthly basis. And it was the exact number that God had gave me on my prayer on the plane 24 hours prior. Now, I tell you that for a couple reasons. Number one, hopefully it may build your faith. It may increase your faith to let God speak into your goals, speak into how your business should be built. I also tell you that, though, because I say, I am doing right now what God called me to do, which is like this video right here, right now. I am getting to share with you how to go build your business. And I'm talking about biblical principles. I'm talking about letting God speak into your business. I'm encouraging you to let God show you how he wants you to separate yourself from the marketplace. And the fruit of that will be incredible. It will be so, so good. And I hope you understand, like, this is super meta here, but I am literally making a video right now that I feel like God has told me to make based on a prayer that he told me to, ultimately an answer to prayer on how he wants me to separate myself from the marketplace. And so that's what I'm doing right now. And that's how I'm continuing to build a business. I have no idea how he wants you to separate yourself from the marketplace. That's between you and him. But that's my encouragement for you today is you don't have to draft this up on your own. You don't have to come up with this idea on your own. Pray about it. Give your business to him and he will direct your steps. I mean, that's also a biblical principle as well. So anyway, that's about all I have for you, but let's go ahead, pray us out, and hopefully we can end with some good encouragement for you. So God, I just thank you so much for the person that's watching this. I thank you so much for, the business that you've called them to and the heart posture that they have to ultimately serve you and multiply what it is that you've given them. God, I pray that you continue to speak to them, both in the quiet place, but also even whenever they're in their busy seasons. God, I pray that you continue to speak to them and show them exactly what you want them doing in the marketplace, exactly how you'd like them to separate themselves from all of the competitors out there and show them how they can continue to give you all of the glory and all the honor and all the praise for the success that they're about to have in this next chapter. May they continue to lean on you, not just as a helper, but like truly as their backbone for how they're building this business. So we thank you for it all. And I guess lastly, I'd just like to pray for their obedience. God, may they obey with whatever plans that you tell them to take action on. So in Jesus' mighty name, amen. If you're new here, this is a video that I like to call a Faith Forward Friday video. And we have 2 videos that we produce every single week. Every Tuesday is more of a action-driven, strategic, tactical video where we actually talk about revenue-driven strategies that you could go apply into your business to go multiply your business and grow it in the way that God would ideally want you to grow it in a way that would just flourish and take market share and take ground and take you into a harvest season. On Fridays, though, this is what this sort of a video is. It's a Faith Forward Friday video where we actually talk about scripture or biblically driven principles and how it actually applies into how we are building the business. So if that sounds like your cup of tea and you got some fruit out of this, boy, would I encourage you to hit subscribe to this channel, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching on some sort of a podcast playing platform. I really think that you'll continue to get quite a bit more fruit from this channel. So hit the subscribe button, and I cannot wait to see you in the next episode. And obviously, if you're a returning subscriber, always say, welcome on back. Appreciate having you and appreciate you always coming on back. I would imagine you're coming on back because you're getting some fruit from these episodes. The Bible actually calls us to love on our neighbor as we want, as we want to be treated as well, or treat your neighbor as you'd want to be treated. And so I would encourage you, do that today. You obviously are getting fruit from this. That means that you probably know someone else in the marketplace that would also get some fruit from an episode such as today's. And so I'd encourage you, go share this with someone that you know would really get some fruit from this. You never know what sort of a ripple effect that might have on their life, how that may affect their day, how that may affect someone else that they might be talking to later today that they might end up sharing. You just never know what God wants to do through you. So encourage you, share this with someone and go love on your community. So that's about all we have for you today. Cannot wait to see you here in the near future. Peace.